Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with a very special multicast for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at OP Footlords. Okay, just kidding, not really. I mean, Footlords aren't really OP, but I've got a few battles featuring Footlords that I wanted to show you all, so let's get to it. This time we've got Kazrak the One-Eye leading a massive Beastman Vanguard up against a Vampire Coast. We've got a whole bunch of Ungor Spearmen herd here, including the ROR. ROR Goreherd with a couple more Goreherd, and plenty of Ungor Raiders. Very strong in this matchup. Cygor, Regiment Renowned Cygor even in the back, just to provide some damage at long range. And we've also got a Brave Shaman Lord of Wild, a couple of Harpies out in Vanguard for some additional damage. As for the coast, my opponent participating in No Heck November, which I have to give credit to Aerocrastic for that fun time. He's the one who originally came up with the idea, and I have been having fun participating with him. And we've got Lore of Death Vampires along with Luther Harkon on foot, so very interesting. I have more Sleep Cygor there, just lands a good hit on those Sirens. We've also got a Bloody Reaver Deckhand mobs, which is not something you see too often, or not Deckhand mobs, Depth Guard rather. We've also got another unit of Depth Guard here, some additional pole arms, some hounds, and more. The Regiment Renowned Gallows Giant, which has already kind of been drawn into this kill box of Ungor Raiders here. You can see just through sheer volume of fire, getting a ton of damage in. You know, 75 armor isn't the most in the world, and these guys, again, volume of fire, even though they only have 1 AP per shot, 90 unit models is very legit. Still, though, only takes 1 shot from the Gallows Giant to rout them off there. You can see the Depth Guard also pushing through here. Hounds trying to get through onto the back line. Thankfully, Ungor Raiders have okay combat stats. I'm going to move the Harpies in as well to try and see those Scurvy Dogs back. On the flank here, I've got another Summon Cygor, and the Beastman Infantry are running in to advance. They definitely are very fast and can get in here and kind of outpace the zombies, outmaneuver them in many aspects. You can see the Gallows Giant gets a brutal side shot here into the Destroyers of Drakwald. Or sorry, the Blackhorns Ravagers rather, and they take a ton of damage. They do have pretty good leadership, so they should be able to hold for the time being, but I'm kiting back away from those Depth Guard for the time being, because I don't want to fight them in melee. Meanwhile, Kazrak is having to fight these Depth Guard in melee, along with the Fleet Captain, and with the taunt active, he'll take a ton of damage here, but Kazrak's a pretty good combatant. Especially with his buffs active, he should be okay. I'm going to kind of pull him back, because he has a good charge bonus. Kind of pull him back, and then go ahead and re-engage here, see if we can't get that charge bonus to activate again. And we're directly fighting the Captain at this point. You can see Captain gets kind of separated here, takes a whack to the back, and she's not going to be too happy about that situation. See, she's got pretty light armor. Kazrak can definitely put a beating on her. Meanwhile, in the back line, you can see the Gallows Giant still online. Brave Shaman's kind of running around like a wild beast here, unleashing some Vile Tide on those Sirens and the pole arms, the deckhands there. The Siren's still alive very impressively, but you can see the Eye of Morslip used up most of its ammo, but still firing in shots. Doesn't have the most kills because it's been firing at Depth Guard for a lot of this. But yeah, these Bloody Reavers going to get in here, and oh man, just take a direct hit right to the head. And unfortunately, I mean, Harkon should be able to hold out here okay. He's still relatively healthy, but Spirit Leech on the on Kazrak here didn't have the magic resistance active, or does he? Yes, he does, because he's in melee, so that helps mitigate some of that damage. Hornswaggle, but still, the Captain getting beat up pretty bad. The Brave Shaman comes in, just runs her over to finish her off. That's quite the ignominious end there. You can see the Depth Guard. One thing about the Depth Guard is they do have regeneration, but they have to be in melee for it to be active. So one of the best things you can do is to try and missile kite them like this with multiple different units. They do finally get in there and start to regenerate a little bit, but you can see they're already crumbling. Another Vile Tide on those Sirens to try and finish them off. Actually ends up routing off those Ungor Raiders, but that's totally fine. Very quickly approaching army losses here, so relatively quick battle, all things said and done, but that's kind of how it goes when you go with this massive Vanguard Beastman. You will either win or lose very quickly, so fun battle, well played to my opponent. Yeah, Kazrak on foot, honestly, not a bad choice against the coast, I think, especially in a heavy Vanguard. You are somewhat vulnerable to getting missile sniped. I mean, like, if they take Harkon up in the air, for example, definitely could be in for a bad time, but, you know, on foot at least he can duel with some of the vampire characters. He can come in, do some damage to some other various units. He even fought okay against those Depth Guard, which is, maybe not the best engagement for him, but he did all right. Ungor Raiders definitely playing a key role there. 59 kills for the Eye of Morsleep as well. A lot of those, again, coming against the low model count Depth Guard, and the Sirens as well have low model counts. So very impressive stuff. Harpies did okay, kind of supporting there. 46 kills for the Brave Shaman as well. Absolutely love Lore of Wild. For my opponent, this build's pretty solid overall. I'm not the biggest fan of the Depth Guard in general, but the dual hand weapons at least can get a lot of work done against Beastman Infantry. Like, honestly, if you were just to cut the Bloody Reaver Depth Guard and take Harkon up on his Terror Goose, all of a sudden this becomes a lot more scary. Just because, obviously he has double regeneration, he's up in the air, so he can kind of sit back and take pot shots and breaths, and also, the Terror and massive rear charge can be very, very powerful. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Let's go ahead and get to the next battle. This time, we're going with the most OP Foot Lord of them all, Krell. And by Krell, I actually mean Heinrich Kemmler, of course. You don't see Kemmler too often these days because of the summon changes that made Krell not wildly useful, but for this build, we're going to try and minimize Kemmler's cost, and only bring Krell here as well as the Chaos Tomb Blade. So Chaos Tomb Blade, you do need to be in melee for this to be active, so I just take this and Krell on Kemmler to make him very cheap. We've then got the White King with the Sternsman as the bodyguard here with the Unholy Lodestone, so kind of some different stacking heal effects. Claw of Nagash to give us a powerhouse unit. We've got zombies up front, some skeleton spears, a couple of Blood Knights out to the flanks, and the Varix Reavers, plus one more unit of Black Knights with lances and barding. And of course, one Necromancer on a corpse card as well, just to give us the zombie summons. And hey, no Nehek November, so we've got no Invocation of Nehek. And yeah, moving on. The Dark Elf army already taking a charge right in the face here. We've got some Bleak Swords, Dread Spears, a unit of Blackguard as well, some Sisters of Slaughter, so a very melee-centric army here for sure. Some Cold One Knights, Dark Riders with shields and so on. We even got the Slaanesha's Harvesters out there on the low ground. Definitely a good choice here. If I were to have brought ethereal units, they would definitely be a great counter, but we're going to try and force kind of an awkward engagement here. Blood Knights pulled back, and now the zombies and other units are going to pull forward. I guess the Blood Knights tried to pull back here, but the Claw of Nagash moves in to start draining, and up on the high ground, we're going to get the main engagement underway here. Sternsman running in. Got the Necromancer cart. Looks like just the regular Unholy Lodestone there. Over on the side here, zombies and Skeleton Warriors just kind of bogging up these Cold One Knights and Dark Riders. Then the Blood Knight's going to charge in here and just do a ton of damage. Meanwhile, we're here for one thing and one thing only, right? And that is not that Burning Head on the low ground, which actually was pretty decent. Did some good damage to some zombies and some other low-tier units, which maybe not the best, but a nice Overcast Dance Macabre here, going to juice up all these units to have just excellent stats. And here comes the man himself with the Burning Head there, doing some good damage to my Blood Knights. But, oh, Krell, I have missed you, bud. Such a cool unit model. He's going to come in here and just start to rip apart these Dark Elf units. That is one nice thing about Krell, is you can kind of summon him in the middle of a big infantry blob like this, and although he's meant to be an anti-large specialist, he is still just an excellent melee combatant in general. With the other White King kind of pounding away here, you can see Kemmler is also supporting with the Corpse Cart. All of that together means that, let's have a look at these Sternsman's stats. Yeah, 41 and 50 in terms of attack and defense for an undead unit is unreal, and considering they have currently 4 different regeneration effects stacking on top of each other, they're going to essentially take no damage at all in this fight, and whatever damage they do take, they'll immediately regenerate. Even Kemmler himself, 48 and 50 in terms of his combat stats, is actually doing quite well with these different stacking effects here, so that's why you want the Balefire, or sorry, not the Balefire, the Unholy Lodestone with Kemmler kind of on top of each other here. Really gives you this very, very scary kind of Death Star. And the actual Death Star, the Claw of Nagash over here, doesn't even have to be used in that center pocket. I mean, you certainly could if you want to. Another nice piercing bolts of burning there. But yeah, the other Necromancer as well, just kind of supporting this flank engagement. These Dark Elf, low-tier Dark Elf units have just been clogged up here the whole time. Haven't been able to get through. I haven't been really highlighting my heavy cav too much, which I know is kind of unusual for me, but I've just been cycling my Blood Knights around, charging various units, especially like this Dark Elf Sorceress here up on the Manticore. She's come down to the ground, and she's going to get absolutely wrecked on by those Blood Knights. Just been trying to outmaneuver and like these Slaanesha's Harvesters and so on. You can see a big tear route on the low ground there. Another Dance Macabre here, again, just to juice up the melee attack. And look at those Blood Knights. What is that? 60, 76, and 45 in terms of their combat stats. Just absolutely ludicrous. Going to tear apart these Cold War Knights that had been held in reserve up until now. But they're just really not going to be able to find a home here. Oh, man. Absolute brutality. Supreme Sorceress tries to come down one more time, but of course that is a very, very dangerous prospect. Is that Krell coming over? Looks like the White King coming over to deliver some justice. Kemmler himself getting involved. Oh, man. Attaboy, Kemmler. Gets a nice hit in, and the Dark Elves hit army losses. So another quick one. Definitely interesting build for my opponent. Kind of trying to counter-rush the Vampire Counts is what it looks like. Definitely, I would say you want a couple single entities if you're going to try and do that. Hydras are excellent in this matchup because of the regeneration. So, like, taking the Chill of Sontar plus one more Hydra with the Manticore up. Manticore up in the air might be a little bit risky. I might actually just take, like, Marathi on foot, to be honest. But, yeah. A decent idea to try and counter-rush. Unfortunately, Krell had other ideas here. As did the Claude Nagash. These Blood Knights, of course, did some heavy lifting. 33 for discount Krell as well. The regular White King doing some good work. And 89 for the Sternsman, considering a lot of those were probably against like Sisters of Slaughter and other elite infantry. That is quite impressive. And I'm a big fan of this sort of Kemmler, Kemmler Krell bomb build. I'll have to try it out a little bit more and let you guys know how successful it is. But yeah, definitely successful that time around. So without further ado, let's get to the next battle. And of course, we couldn't make a video about Foot Lords without talking about the Dowie. So we're here today with the Dwarves against the Beastmen, already getting some Vanguard action between these Bugman's Rangers and a couple of unit of Hounds. I've gone with a mass Vanguard, sort of a mass Vanguard. We've got some miners with blasting charges, Norgrimlings, a couple of regular miners, Rangers, and Bugman's Rangers as well, currently getting chewed on by these Hounds. The regeneration and good melee defense helping somewhat, but they already have lost quite a few models, which is not the best for me. The Foot heroes, though, Gotrek, Felix, and Belagar reuniting today to fight the Foul Beasts. We've got the Dragonback Slayers as well moving up. And let's not forget the Gyros, this air force of 6 brimstone guns. I mean, 6 total. 2 units of brimstone guns, plus the bomber. A nice Dowie Air Force. Going to spot my Beastman opponent over here near the woods. We've got a few units just barely visible. Some Goreherds with shields, Spearmen. Looks like plenty of Razor Gores. A Beast Lord on a chariot with a Brave Shaman Lord of Shadows on chariot. Very good stuff. More Goreherds. A couple of Best Gore held in reserve also. And then we've also got some Centaurs with great weapons here out in the periphery as well. So you can see with the blasting charges and with the Rangers and everything, missile attack, we were able to rout them off. Did you lose quite a few of those Bugman's Rangers though? Just about half of them ended up getting lost there, which is pretty brutal. They are going to continue to regenerate some of that damage that they've taken, but yeah, definitely a really good pick by my opponent early on, considering how cheap those Warhounds are. But it's going to be an interesting situation. Well, lots and lots of armor-piercing units here for the Beastmen, these Razor Gore Herd and the Chariots and more. They do have quite a ways to go to make their way up kind of across this area. I'm, of course, just going to sit back with my infantry and try and let my air units do the work on the approach here. The Brimstone guns coming in immediately, starting to drop some models on these Razor Gore Herds. I'm going to try and use the bomber specifically to go after the Beast Lord Chariots and use the Brimstone guns to take out these pig models here if I can. I do want to try and be pretty conservative with my ammo, though, to only make sure to shoot the right targets here. Like you can see that there. We did take out one of the pig models, but that probably wasn't worth the volley from the Gyro Bomber. It's tough to say, but certainly you need to try and be conservative. These things don't have the most ammo in the world, so you do need to make sure you're shooting at the right targets to try and get your value from them. But still, damage is definitely legit, especially with the bonus versus large now on the Brimstone guns. But the Gyro Bomber, if you look at the missile damage, just does a hilarious amount of missile damage, especially up close. Like, just that one volley there does quite a lot to that Beast Lord. and we should be able to continue to get some good damage on the approach. Meanwhile, my opponent very patiently making his way up and around here with the Centaurs, trying to find an opening position to try and get in and maybe get on these Rangers again. So, yeah, since this is a multicast, we're going to fast forward a little bit as I continue to kind of skirmish my opponent here with these gyros. Eventually, the Hounds do get back and try and get into these Rangers one more time, but again, I can just kind of turn these miners, get the blasting charge volleys off if I need to, and we should be able to keep these guys nice and secure. Oh, here come the Rangers. Sorry, the Centaurs with great weapons getting a good charge in here on these miners, but again, we can kind of just turn, start shooting with the Rangers here. Blasting charges. And those Centaurs are seen off, taking a little bit of damage, only dropping a couple models there, but just trying to stay defensive here, stay in a nice little box, even though the blasting charges don't have charge defense, including the Ekron's miners here. They because of the blasting charges, the Beastmen units, because of their lack of armor, will take a ton of damage on the approach if they try and just charge straight in. So it can sort of work like a charge defense, not quite, but yeah, you can see with the gyros now, we've managed to actually force the one Razorgore herd to enrage, and you can see the Beast Lord is pretty much dead before he even gets in on the approach, so that's kind of the ideal situation here with the gyros. Because these single model chariots are such a huge danger to you, they are going to be your priority target number one with this gyro squad here. You can see the Beast Lord and his Shaman try and charge, but they don't actually end up getting a very good charge in there. And all across the line here, blasting charge is going to be unleashed against, like, even the pigs, again, because of the lack of armor, will take a lot from these blasting charges. Absolutely glorious. Oh, man. This is the stuff we like to see from Dawi replays, right? And in terms of the OP Footlords, let's see, where are they? They're in here somewhere. Looks like they're in this center line, just wrecking those Razorgore herds. The Beast Lord just went down, and the Bray Shaman very quickly getting taken out as well. But yeah, let's go find Belagar here. Oh, slays a pig there. We've got Gotrek as well. Does a little wind up. Oh yeah, there we go. Just one-shots a pig. Felix getting beat up a little bit, but that's okay. Yeah, he doesn't quite have the same mass as these Dawi boys, so he is going to get shaken a little bit, but he gets a hit in there. More blasting charges, and I believe we're going to queue up a bombing run relatively soon. Or maybe I just did and I missed it? I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, the bomber using up the last of its ammo there to go after the Razorgore herd. More blasting charges in the back line. You can see the Bestigore are still here. And they have just gotten now into the fight. Doing a good job trying to collapse this flank, but again, the balance power just so far gone at this point. The loss of leadership for the Beastmen is pretty extreme. The Centaur is going to get caught up by the Dragonback Slayers, and here's a bombing run that we can actually catch. Gyrocopters getting in, dropping their payloads on those Centaurs, and oh, I thought the Beast Lord was dead. It looks like he actually survived, at least until now. This should be his end. Yep, he goes down there to the Gyro Bomber. And people say Gyro Bombers are bad units, but I disagree. And this replay goes a long way to showing why I disagree with that. You can snipe, especially single model Chariot Lords, which is like one of the things that the dwarfs are weakest to. You can snipe them relatively effectively with Gyro Bombers, so that's why I'm a big fan. You can see it even got an XP Chevron from that, from taking out that Beast Lord and all the damage on the Bray Shaman and everything, so excellent stuff. Miners with blasting charges, decent in this matchup, as long as you can get good charges off. 77 kills on the Norgremlings. They're just such a strong unit in general. They have so much going for them. And definitely misused my Bugmans pretty bad there. Kind of got them chewed on by Hounds, but credit to my opponent. He was able to get in and get some good work done initially. Yeah. It was a little bit tough. I think he maybe should have tried to save those Warhounds until the full, kind of the full house was brought, but it was going to be a tough situation regardless, trying to get that Beast Lord across the field without him getting beat up really bad by the Gyro Bombers and the Gyrocopters, so definitely a fun one. Let's go ahead and get to the next replay. Okay, yes, I cheated on this one. It's not technically a Footlord. Volkmar is on his Volkswagen. But we've got Gotrek and Felix, which means I have... Yes, I know. I didn't bring a caster. I consciously chose to not bring a caster. People are going to give me crap for this, but this is the build that I think that it might be semi-viable with. We've got the Volk's Chariot with Gotrek and Felix both cheaped out on foot. The Volk's Chariot has his Grand Hammer of Sigmar, Shield of Faith, got Soulfire and Banishment to try and bust up blobs so that these two can get their work done. Sigmar's Sons, Tattersouls, Spearmen with Shields, Great Swords, and a Mortar. Going to round things out here with a couple of Pistoliers, of course. Some of them getting caught up here by some Dark Riders with Shields, not the best. We've got Lokir Fellheart cracking face on his Krakeny Dragon. And a very, very wide build of Bleak Swords, Dread Spears. We've got some Dark Shards as well. Sorceress Lord Fire with Fireball and Flamestorm. So really interesting. The Mortar's already gotten some damage done on the Bleak Swords over on the low ground there, but yeah, I'm a little bit worried at the moment. I do have a lot of expensive unshielded units potentially here, but yeah, that Fireball, swing and a miss. Not that it would have done much to Volkmar anyway, but it did kill about 9 of those Great Swords, so that actually probably wasn't the worst. But yeah, the Mortar can continue to fire in. All of this volume of fire does worry me somewhat for the Dark Elves, because again, I have a lot of expensive unshielded units, but we should be able to get a relatively effective melee engagement. My opponent's front line doesn't look too strong. It's just a bunch of Dark Elf militia, basically. But over on the side here, we're getting some skirmishing in, Pistoliers, getting some fire on these Dark Riders with shields. We're going to drop them into a melee engagement. I had the Zintler's Reichsguard in a bit of a vanguard position in the back there, but this is the part we're all waiting for. We pop buffs, Grand Shield of Faith on all these units so that they don't take quite so much damage on the approach there. Looks like the Flagellants already ran out of the area of effect, but that's fine. Volkmar are going to start rolling forward. Gotrek and Felix as well. We've got Banishment in the back line, just starts ripping apart these Dark Shards, just stays right on top of them and kills basically an entire unit by itself. And here comes the charge. Flagellants getting in. Volkmar's Chariot coming in. We've got Great Swords charging as well. Oh man, that's an epic sight right there. Sigmar's Sons already engaged in the fight. Here come the Zintler's Reichsguard as well, victorious, out on the flanks, over the foul Dark Riders, and as you can imagine, this is very, very quickly going to turn against my opponent, as we're able to just immediately break the front line more or less with the Tattersouls, all these various units. The Mortar also raining in shots, got 30 kills so far. Really, really good stuff. Lokir's desperately trying to rally his forces here, drops in to try and land. I'm going to troll him just by doing a little drive-by with Volkmar, a little drive-by Grand Shield of Faith. My opponent does unleash a Flamestorm here, which was going to do some pretty good damage, but I was able to kind of pull up and away with some of my units there due to some Dark Elf units breaking. So might go do some damage over on the far side there, but it is going to be a pretty quick rout for the Dark Elves. You can see a lot of their forces just not holding up well here. Gotrek and Felix managed to get their paws on the big scary Kraken face himself, and Gotrek is going to deliver some righteous justice in the name of the Empire here. And I'm not even sure where Felix is. He's probably over on the other side somewhere, but Gotrek's really the one that's going to be doing the lion's share of the heavy lifting against old Lokir. Lokir decides to flee the field, and that's going to be, again, pretty quick victory for the Empire. My opponent still had some Dark Shards on the field, but there was, yeah, not a lot of chance for him coming back from that. And I didn't think that that was actually going to work in this matchup. I have used this build. Unfortunately, I didn't save the replay. During the practice lead up to the Everchosen, I had a really, really awesome game against Wyvern, where I used this versus the Warriors of Chaos, and actually ended up working really well. Again, I don't know that this is really competitive or advisable even, but you do have to forego bringing a caster to take these three together. But it certainly is a lot of fun. Volkmar himself racking up 88 kills, and of course Gotrek doing a ton of damage to Loki there in a very short time. Good kills on the Tattersouls. Sigmar's Sons especially, 81 kills in that front line, 83 the Zintler's Reichsguard, 36 for the Mortar. My opponent's army, I mean, it seems good on paper, right? It's well balanced, but at the same time, Dark Shards are pretty terrible. I would definitely recommend you just cut them out and go for like Shades, and in this matchup specifically, you really want Cold One Knights. Like, I would even go so far as to cut all the chevrons from these Bleak Swords, maybe even cut 2 of them just straight up, and take like 3 to 4 Cold One Knights, just because they're so good in this matchup. Very good against Empire Heavy Cavalry. They're good at charging Empire Infantry. They can go after skirmishers and stuff. Just a multitude of uses in this matchup. Definitely need something to kind of contest that mobility game and to give you some mass so you don't just get run over like this. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. One more quick one. I promise this last one will actually be a pretty decent battle, so let's get to it. Alright, and to round things out here, we've got good old Queek. Oh yeah, give us a yell, Queek. You are one of the best footlords in the game probably right now, in my opinion. I know that's probably controversial, but here he is. We've got Queek Headtaker along with the Warlock Engineer, 2 Hell Pit Abominations, tons of Skaven Slaves, some Night Runners, and some Clan Rats with shields. Pretty straightforward Skaven build here. Some Death Runners out the flanks, it looks like. And yeah, fun stuff. As for the Dark Elves, we've got a K-Knight Assassin here. Looks like some Dark Riders scattered around in various places, along with Doomfire Warlocks. Very nice. Nice balanced front line here. Bleak Swords, Dark Shards, with a Supreme Sorceress Lord of Fire up top. Blackguard, a couple of Dread Spears, and some Harpies as well. They're going to be firing in here. The Dark Shards obviously won't do a whole lot initially to the Skaven Slaves here, but if they focus fire, yep, looks like they're going to focus fire on the Hell Pit. A very nice Warp Lightning, though. Going to disrupt, and the Doom Rocket. Yeah, I hardly ever see that thing used. But, oh man, just look at the DPS there from the Dark Shards. Definitely do a lot of damage for the cost. They are deployed a little bit close to the line here, meaning they're going to get kind of interrupted. Line of fire, not line of fire, but just charged into, rather. But, man, this Hell Pit taking a ton of damage immediately charging in here. A bit YOLO. Meanwhile, the Harpies are being used to distract a good portion of the army here. They are getting killed by Death Runners, but that does mean that the Dark Elves are able to engage the Skaven force kind of piecemeal a little bit here, and this Hell Pit just gets absolutely wrecked by Dark Shards and that Blackguard there as well. Looks like Death Frenzy on the Skaven Slave Spears. Interesting. Actually juices up their melee attack to 36, and all of a sudden they're out trading with Dread Spears, which is, you know, kind of hilarious given the cost differential between those units. The other Hell Pit has made its way in. Will this one actually survive? Nope. Looks like it dies horribly. That's pretty bad luck. But, oh man, is this going to be Arnsapal's Black Horror from the Supreme Sorceress? It's her bound item there. This nasty, scary Black Wind is going to come in and do a ton of damage. Of course, the Warlock Engineer is still relatively healthy. Where's Queek at? Yep, Queek's still here. He's got plenty of Clan Rats and Death Runners making their way over from this side here. Doomfire Warlock's now going to be activated as well. The Dark Riders getting into those Death Runners. They aren't necessarily winning, but they are tying those Death Runners down at least. And a K-Knight Assassin as well, providing some nice kind of Overwatch fire here. Just spreading some poison around. Oh man, these Doomfire Warlocks looked like they were going to get a great charge in there, but they honestly could just charge those Clan Rats straight in the face with no problem and do a ton of damage to them, but they're really trying to get on those Night Runners as best they can, which I definitely understand. Looks like a Doom Bolt came in, did some good damage to those Skaven Slaves. Queek tries to hold things together with Stand Your Ground, but looks like, yeah, the Hell Pit's going to maybe survive for the time being, but a nice Soul Blight in return from the from the Dark Elves. So far so good. Looks like a Howling Warp Gale there does manage to pin the Supreme Sorceress in place, but let's check in with Queek Cam here as he fights these Blackguard in melee. You know, this is actually not a bad situation for the Hell Pit because Queek is supporting here. He can do a lot of damage to these Blackguard, you know, in melee because of his anti-infantry AP. He's more meant as a duelist, but even still, he'll be able to grind through quite a few of these guys. Still probably not the best to try and have this Hell Pit just sit here and fight in melee for a long time, but at the same time, Queek's also getting some good damage in. If you take kind of an overarching look, you can see the Rats are getting the swarm going at this point, and the Dark Shards have all been compromised, the Bleak Swords as well. A lot of units getting chased off here. It's just not looking too great. Murderous Prowess has been popped, though. It is currently active, so the Dark Elves are getting a nice little damage spike all across the field. But yeah, that Hell Pit, the second Hell Pit, just about to go down at this point. It is pretty low on HP. Might still get its healing proc, but oh man, this is risky. The Supreme Sorceress dives in and then immediately dives away. The Death Runners are now here supporting Queek, so this is a really good situation. If you notice, these Blackguard down to 27 armor between the Weeping Blade of the Death Runners there, plus Queek's Warp Shard armor puts them down to 27 armor. So, oh man, even like Skaven Slave Slingers would tear them apart at that point. But like you can see these Clan Rats getting in here, they're going to trade super cost effectively with those Blackguard because of that low armor and the fact that they have so many unit models. So really, really nice synergy there actually with Queek and that those Death Runners. I really like that. More Death Runners out to the side here. Not sure exactly. Looks like they're maybe chasing some Dark Shards off. Doomfire Warlocks have managed to clean up quite a few kills, it looks like. Yeah, 169 kills just cleaning up units out in the periphery. These Night Runners, Skaven Slaves, and more. And it's been a little bit more of a rough time for the Dark Riders. They haven't traded quite as effectively. Managed to chase quite a few routing units, but not quite enough at this point. We'll see, maybe. The center line is starting to get a bit hazy for the Dark Elves as these Blackguard are routed off here. And it looks like the K-Knight Assassin is involved in melee. Yep, he's been caught here by the Death Runners and the Warlock. The Engineer here, oh, little ninja kicks to the head. They're like, hey, Elf Ninja, you think you're cool with your little roll and your little crossbow? Well, check this out. Yeah, the K-Knight Assassin, not in the best situation, although, again, he does have 70 melee attack, only 42 defense, which means he'll take a lot of damage, but he can definitely punch back pretty good. Looks like the Supreme Sorceress, oh man, that's very unlucky. The Dark Riders just rout there, and this Hell Pit actually comes back from rout. Fireball, though. Overcast Fireball comes in, does some pretty good damage. Probably not worth the Overcast, it's tough to say, but at this point it's just the Supreme Sorceress and the K-Knight left. There are still these Doomfire Warlocks as well, just chasing some units off here. Looks like the Night Runners still probably needed to try and come back and support with that mobility against some of these various units. Specifically, the Death Runners ended up playing a pretty big role here. Looks like the Manticore Lady going to drop down with the support of these Dark Riders. Probably will be able to finish off this Hell Pit Abomination. It's tough to say. If she takes too many hits, though, it's going to be bad. Looks like she does take a couple of hits there. Going to try and pull away. But, yeah, specifically, again, the Doomfire Warlocks, because of the magic attacks, we have a look here. Death Runners don't have any, not any armor. They have a tiny bit, but they also rely heavily on 30% physical resistance. So the Doomfire Warlocks, if you can get an open charge on the Death Runners, you'll do a ton of damage to them. And, of course, because Doomfire Warlocks aren't armored, they're not going to be countered whatsoever by the Death Runners. Death Runners don't have the best stats in the world, so that's a pretty good counter there, but we'll see. Looks like the Skaven going to try and kind of reform here a little bit, so we'll fast forward somewhat through this late game as they chase off that K-Knight Assassin. Doomfire Warlocks come back. They do manage to, again, catch out some Clan Rats here. This is what you need to do if you're trying to come back in a situation like this. It can be tough, but yeah, it looks like the Supreme Sorcerer is trying to dive down one more time to finish off the Hell Pit. Not quite going to be enough. She does have a few of these Dark Riders still alive. Those Doomfire Warlocks can come back again as well. The Death Runners get terrified here. And, I don't know, Dutch Skink, who is playing the Dark Elves, definitely trying to claw his way back here. Not going quietly into the good night. With the K-Knight Assassin still online as well. There's a lot of Skaven units still here. And the Doomfire Warlocks, they're going after something over here. It looks like maybe some Skaven Slave Spears. I don't know if that's really the best move necessarily. I think he definitely needs to try and unify them with the rest of this force here, but K-Knight Assassin, at the very least, is able to use up some of the last of his ammo there, shooting in. Dark Rider's going to charge, so we'll see. Probably not going to last too long, as critical army loss is very, very quickly approaching. Yeah, you can see the Doomfire Warlocks at this point now being pulled back. Probably a little bit late there. Nice burning head, did some damage, but Queek especially here, because Queek is so healthy, and the Supreme Sorceress honestly doesn't have a prayer of trying to finish Queek off in melee, so decent fight on both sides. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Dark Shards, and this is one replay that kind of goes to show a little bit of why. Not exactly, but oh man, Supreme Sorceress charges in here solo, and the Doomfire Warlocks kind of just let it happen there. And that'll be the end, but very fun stuff. Queek ended up getting 71 kills there, and very good synergy with Queek, with the Death Runners kind of mowing through those Blackguard. Don't see that too often, but very nice use of him. Hell Pits, one of them ended up getting taken out very quickly, and great focus from Dutch Skink to be able to do so. 203 kills, though, from those Death Runners. Holy cow, they just ripped through that backline. Death Runners, such a good unit in this matchup. Likewise, 356 kills for those Doomfire Warlocks, chasing all the routing units off. Definitely very effective. They just maybe weren't quite in the right place at the right time for some certain engagements. 226 as well for the Supreme Sorceress, Lore of Fire. Probably got a really good burning head that I missed at some point, but you know, you would expect, again, those kind of kill totals versus the Skaven Despite those kill totals, like 164 on Bleak Swords, 87, 80 here, 127 on Red Spears, 76 on Blackguard, just not quite enough at the end of the day. Skaven were able to keep the rush going, keep the flow of rats going, and the Death Runners, again, playing a huge role here. Really can't understate how important they were. And although, again, the 356 kills on routing units for the Warlocks was very important, just using them even for just one or two key rear charges on these Death Runners at certain moments probably would have tipped the balance, just because, again, the magic damage versus the physical resistance there, quite good. I might even, maybe even cut these other two Harpies and just take a second unit of Doomfire Warlocks just to really have some good counters to those Death Runners. But regardless, very fun battle. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Foot Lord multicast. If you did enjoy, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends. That's pretty much all I have for today, so thank you once again, and we'll see you next time.